DJ Semtex, One Extra, and you know what I do every Friday from 10, play the biggest music, sickest mixes, and I do interviews with the hottest artists. I do interviews with the people that define the culture, that make the culture happen, whether they're behind the scenes, whether they're other DJs, presenters, or whatever. And right now, I think I've got one of the most significant voices on the show tonight. I think this guy has an opinion and a perspective that I respect, I can relate to, and I agree with most of the time. There's a couple of times I'm like, but 99% of the time I'm like, this guy's on it. Talking about Akademiks, the legendary DJ Akademiks. What's going on, man?
Oh, man, you give me too much credit. I don't know about legendary, but I'm going to take it. I don't know about legendary. However, yeah, I always have an opinion on everything. And I mean, I think that's important for different opinions to be presented. And especially like if you really love music, you're going to have an opinion. You're not going to really follow with everyone else, but you're really going to speak from the heart. So I try to do that. And I mean, I'm glad that people gravitate towards it.
What made you, what made you become a personality? What made you want to talk online and put your voice out there? Because it's like what you do is very different from what a DJ does or what a blogger does or a journalist, because you do the audio visual thing, you use the imagery which has an impact on the words that you say. But what made you start all of this? Where did it all start for DJ Akademiks? I'm
glad you mentioned that, right? I'll tell you this, and this is a little bit more of my background, right? I was born in Jamaica. I know the UK and Jamaican culture, or even like dancehall culture, has like a close tie, but I grew up there, right? So I moved to the U.S. and I'm used to a DJ, or what we call a selector in Jamaica, doing a specific thing. They're usually the voice of the culture. Yeah. So it's a little bit different for me when I come to the U.S. And basically the DJ is normally seen as the guy who just presses a button, shuts up, right? Like you might say one line here or there, but other than that, you don't have too much impact on the culture. I wasn't really feeling that. I was DJing and I was more gravitated towards, and I still love dancehall reggae music. And I'm like, I need to get my voice heard, right? And I didn't think my voice should only be heard like, okay, now you're in a party setting, you should make your voice heard. I'm like, well, if I'm playing these records, then yeah, I'm going to play what the people want, but I should be able to give my opinion and also take the opinion of some people or the masses and then react to it that way. So I really made a platform early when I started doing college radio. I found the beautiful thing that's the internet, and I started really making my voice heard. I realized it would turn some people off, but I do realize, or I realized quickly, that after me just giving my honest opinion and trying to be as objective as I could be, some people gravitated towards that, and that's really been the thing. So it really stemmed from my roots, me being Jamaican, and I'm like, listen, I got to have more of a say in what the culture is, because who more intimately, other than the artists themselves, which you could say they're innately biased because they're making the music, they're the artiste, right? You're the DJ, you're handling all this music, and of course, you could do two ways. You could play the politics where you're like, hey, I want everybody to be cool with me, or you could be like, hey, I'm playing all this music. I probably listen to most of this music more than the majority of people. I have an educated opinion. I let that be heard, and that's where I really got that from. Yo,
don't take this the wrong way. I didn't realize you was an actual DJ.
It's cool.
Because some people use the term in vain, man. They're not. Like, there's a lot of people that, and then the facts from what you're talking about, like the whole art of selecting, and you come from Jamaica and everything. Like, this is dope. Like, this is eye opening for me. So,
I won't lie though. This has been the longest stretch. I think in the last year, I've probably DJ'd about 10 times, which has probably been the slowest it's ever been, just because now I'm doing more commentary and I'm turning down more DJ gigs. But that was that was keeping the lights on for me at one point. That was really going through college. That helped me pay for my college fee, my tuition. So I was DJing a lot. But I've transitioned into this figure where I'm a personality now. And that's the reason why I still haven't dropped the DJ from my name, because, I mean, you're forever a DJ.
Definitely.
Like when I needed to only DJ, I was doing that. But I have a tremendous respect for all DJs. Not only that, I was a producer at one point. I'd probably say you could consider me a failed producer who then turned to DJing, but I have a tremendous respect for those people too. So I think it gives me the unique perspective in understanding everything else, even outside of just the singer or rapper or whoever who's the vocal artist, because you kind of get a little 360 view of how music creation and also music dissemination works. So I'm very happy about that, and I'm definitely not like embarrassed about it.
Okay, nice, dope. Like, and long live the DJ. You know,
of course. I will say though, going into the future, and I've told a lot of people this. Maybe it's a futuristic mentality I have. I've always thought that with the age of the internet, like it blew my mind. Couple of years back when I lost DJ gigs to like people who either underpriced me, and then I would realize.
Oh, like, you went through that as well?
Yeah. Everybody goes to it. And then I realized it was just someone that used the program, and the program does it all for them, right? The program literally basically did my job. So it was also a kind of like a kick in the butt to say, hey, you know what you got to do? You have to show your relevance and importance more than just on the tables, right? You got to show that you are something bigger than that. So that's when I start focusing on being a brand. And I would advise all DJs, right? No matter how good you are, you could get down, you could really mix, you could spin. You always have to think about yourself as a brand, because technology is not working for you. And a lot of times when you're trying to make ends meet, you'll realize you'll get people out pricing you. It becomes hard to sustain your value unless your brand is there. I give advice to everyone who's an up-and-coming DJ for that.
Some valuable advice right there. And whereabouts are you from in the US? Like, where are you based now?
I'm based in New York right about now. When I first moved, I was in the New Jersey area. I've always been a tri-state type of guy. And which is good because everything is in New York. Right. So like, I'm pretty much in a great place. But
given what you do, does it matter where you are?
I'm glad you asked that, right? You asking where I'm from, most of the people who are listening, they don't know I'm from New York. And I never claim to be from a specific city because I think I'm from the internet. And what I mean by that is...
Yo, that's what Russ said. I asked Russ where you from. He said I'm from the internet. Same thing.
Exactly. I don't try to get anything regional. I actually... And like recently, I've been going back and forth with a couple media outlets that are based in New York because I'm like, hey, listen, I understand you guys are based in New York, but you got to understand the new wave of things is that you can't be region biased or region specific. Me personally, I connect with people who are in the UK, people from Australia, people from like Sweden. Listen, it could be from Atlanta, it could be from, I connect with everything. So you never even hear me champion a particular region like, oh, I'm repping this, because usually that's going to imply to a consumer or listener that, hey, I have an agenda for this region. I love all music. Right. And if anything, I try to get my audience to open up. Like, hey, listen, you might not be used to this, but just give it a chance. Give it a chance.
I hear that. So I wanted to get your view, your direct view on some things. I know you've been talking about this on your clips, but you know, right now you're on One Extra, and I wanted to talk to you about More Life. Like, what's your take on the whole project? Like, 22 tracks, it's a playlist. Like, what's the DJ Akademiks overview? Because I know you broke it down in different parts and you talked about different things, but like just that general consensus from what you feel about the playlist.
Yep, and I actually have like a full detail, even more breaking down like of the entire like playlist. But overall, I thought it was a good project. I thought it was a dope project. I'm not gonna lie, it was different from most Drake projects, not only in the features, because I felt the playlist portion of it was just him trying to say, hey, I'm gonna feature some people you don't expect to see on my album. I'm gonna feature him on this project because I think this is the progressive move to do. And whether you want to admit it or not, Drake is being progressive in a lot of things he's doing. But the entire project was dope, but the energy to me was different. Right. It started off very aggressive. I'm not gonna lie, mostly the singing tracks are the ones that I'm like, I'm not sure if I really want this here. Not that they're whack, but I don't know if I want them on More Life. But the entire project was dope. I felt like he finally integrated with some artists that he has a lot of respect for. He's taken from them in terms of being inspired from them, right? And he finally integrated them into his project. It was definitely a big change. I actually really like it. I like it. I don't like it more than Views, though, because I like Drake. Anything that's resembling Drake in 2011, that's my thing, right?
Right.
But as far as how he tried to do this, I respect it. I like it. I would have probably removed a couple tracks, though.
Right.
I would have probably removed a couple tracks. He gave away a couple tracks to others who he wasn't even on the track at all. I would have probably deleted those. Okay.
What did you think of the appearance of Giggs on 2 tracks?
You know what? That's been getting a lot of talk on social media, right? Like, I know my U.S. audience, like when I speak about it or I even tweet about it, a lot of people did not like that Giggs was on More Life, especially on some of the tracks that they felt there was a certain type of tone on it. I'm kind of in the middle. I like Giggs, okay? Unlike a lot of like my American like audience or counterparts, I'm very open to UK rappers. They're dope to me, right?
Okay.
Because I do feel like they bring something different, and also lyrically, people be sleeping on the stuff they're saying. Now, I think the KMT track, I'm not feeling this verse. That's just facts. I'm not feeling this verse. I thought it could have been better, or I thought it could have been a different artist. However, on the second track, the No Long Talk track, I thought he killed it. And I love that one. So again, I'm in the middle with it. Like, I understand why a lot of people for the Kiss My Teeth track, they might be like, yo, well, if they don't like Giggs, that's their own issue. But if they thought that his verse could have been better, I get it.
Right.
But he gave another verse that I thought was completely dope. The cadences he went through, it was amazing.
Right.
Lyrically, he went in. And again, listen, it's half and half for me.
Okay.
So shout out to Giggs.
Definitely. Shout out to Giggs all day, the landlord. Now, do you think that, you know, the outrage that's coming from the US, you know, because we've never seen this with Skepta, and I haven't seen the same outrage about Skepta being on there. And that's actually Skepta's hardest verse. I was talking to him the other night about that. He's ever done. Like, he killed it on that. But do you think it's because Drake had the audacity to put a UK MC on 2 tracks? Are they more outraged about that more than anything else? Do they feel like they're being force-fed British culture?
You know, it's a little bit of both. And when I mean both, like, they do feel that sentiment somewhat, but some of them, because of how the track starts, right, where Drake comes on, he sets the tempo, and you just got to think of somebody being in whatever culture. Like, if you kind of feel like, okay, this is dope, and then it switches to someone with a different accent. Believe me, this is the same thing they felt a lot with Popcorn when he was on the first verse of Controller.
So it's culture shock.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that kind of probably helped with Drake's decision, and like, hey, the final version won't have him on there. I give Drake a lot of credit for leaving Giggs on them records and not like thinking, hey, I'm not trying to push people away. But I'll say this. People in the US, and I've said this repeatedly, they got to get over it, okay? I've asked repeatedly, I said, is the accent? If it's the accent, you guys will get over it. Because when I first heard mumble rapping, I affectionately call what like Lil Uzi does, and to some extent Lil Yachty, and you know, like basically everybody who has like a rainbow colored hair, right? Their type of music, I call mumble rap. When I first heard it, I was like, what are they talking about? But you know what? After a while, you got used to it. And when people are hearing these UK rappers, and first of all, they're kicking high quality lyrical content, but the accents, exactly, the accent is throwing them off. And because the accent is throwing them off, and I'll tell you another thing, right? Because you might not think it has to do, it affects people's musical reception, but a lot of people will hear the accent, and because it sounds so proper, they'll be like, oh, he's not about it. Right? Again, believe me, I know you've heard it. And that's a misconception. They're like, yo, I just can't listen to this guy with this accent talking that aggressive talk.
Right.
Eventually, they will get over it. I believe Drake's a pioneer with it.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so much talented people from the UK who's making great music, and it's kind of seeping in. But there's resistance right now. Eventually, believe me, more and more people realize that the accent isn't anything. The same way, if we could accept mumble rap, cut it out about an accent. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
And I think the other thing is like anyone who's been out here, they know how real it is, and that every artist, like whether it's Kanye, Jay-Z, 50 Cent, they all know what it is. They all know who's who. They all know who you got to pay homage to when you land in the country. They all know what the streets are like. So I think you've never heard this kind of criticism from any artist because they know what it is. Like they recognize that. And it's, you know, like when I first saw the criticism that was going on, I was like, oh, you guys just need a passport. You know, this is what it boils down to.
You know what it is too, man? Because of how UK culture is, right? Or actually just Americans. You see America, we do have a little bit of an arrogance where since so many people pay attention to artists that are popular in the US, when we have to pay attention to artists who are popular in other culture or other countries, we kind of get either offended or dismissive. Like, no, right? No, here's the thing. Guaranteed, right? If, say, Skepta, Gigs, Stormzy, like if any one of them came to the U.S., put in the work in the U.S. for like, say, a year, they'll be much accepted. But because people feel like, oh, that doesn't affect us, and now when you're kind of forced to hear it, like on, say, a project like More Life, now you're kind of resenting it. But in reality, it's dope music. Yeah. It's dope music. And eventually, believe me, they'll get over it. They'll get over it because, like you could hear the music and you could hear the different. First of all, I'll tell you this now. Just the musical wave, and music does go in waves where people get inspired by certain things to make even what they make, despite what any rapper claims to say or any musician. There is a influence from UK artists that is actually spreading into United States musicians. Right. And fans accept it as long as it's in a nice accent that they get. But they don't realize, they know, like, first of all, Drake was using certain type of slang and also certain type of patterns and all that stuff in his music that resembles what's going on in the UK for a couple of years. Yeah. It was flames, hit after hit, right? But as soon as you hear what really is the authentic, right, there's a little bit of a pushback because it's not dressed up. But eventually, trust me, they'll get over it. There's always a resistance before acceptance. All right.
Okay. What's your take on the Xxxtentacion like situation with Drake?
Hey, you know what? I spoke to X this morning on the phone. I did a video about him. He called me. I spoke to him, and I warned him. I said, "Listen, man, you're doing something right now that a lot of people wouldn't think is smart. You're also doing something that a lot of people think is brave." The basic issue with both of them is that X says, I had a very popular song which gained a lot of buzz while I was incarcerated. You heard it because you knew of me. And rather than even approaching me to do a remix or let's do another song with that same particular flow, you took it, you did a song with it. Now, did that happen? I don't know. I'm not going to blame Drake, nor could I even absolve him, because when I listen to the cadence of both songs, Look at Me and KMT, sounds very similar.
But
right?
it also sounds very similar to Digital Dash, which came out 2 years before.
Yes, it does, but it sounds closer to Look at Me. I'm being 100% honest here. Yeah. When I listen to that thing, I know Drake heard Look at Me. Just because it's a slowed down version. And you could put all three songs, Digital Dash, Look at Me, and KMT at the same tempo. You'll easily recognize that the cadence is more of a match with Look at Me. Now, it's not a bad thing, but I can understand why, because we all get inspired by other people, right? Greatness inspires more greatness, okay? You're never good if no one wants to be like you. You're never good if no one is inspired by you. You know, right? Yeah. Listen, you're great. There's people who probably see, let me see how this guy does his thing. I want to be like that. Right. So there's nothing wrong with that. And if that was the only issue X had, I would have been like, X, you're wilding out. This is art. But according to how, and I've spoken to his manager, they've showed me things that kind of let me know that the weeks preceding Drake previewing that snippet, Drake was very interested in him, was reaching out to him about music, and for whatever reason, that came out around that time. You got to imagine how a young artist is feeling, right? He's locked in jail, right? 23 hours a day, no internet. His only glimpse of what's going on in the outside world, he's on the phone talking to his manager, which means anything social is through the phone. And he has one song gain a lot of buzz. All of a sudden, that song, he hears a similar cadence from the guy who was very interested in him. Simultaneously, this is before he called him out. All connection or all type of communication with him and Drake ceased. It's like Drake reached out technically through another DJ to him, but after that snippet kind of started making its rounds, his fans say, wait, isn't that sound like that? He's trying to also clarify Drake, and again, we know he's a huge artist. There was no type of communication. From where he's at, and again, I would have probably went at it differently. I've advised him to think about certain things, but he's his own man, and he feels anger. He feels like, hey, had I not, and luckily he did get out on probation, but he's like, that was the only money he had coming in to pay for his legal fees, and for pretty much all intents and purposes, like, that was his entire career, that one song. So to see a big artist take it, he felt hurt. Now, he reacted in a very violent or aggressive manner, and now he's gotten out of jail. He's taken it to the next level, which I don't agree with.
Same here.
But I can understand his frustration.
Okay.
He's speaking up. And by the way, not even to go even further or dig into another topic, but another rapper / artist, I don't know what he calls himself, Drum, he felt the same way. Drum had a hot song. Drake comes out with Hotline Bling. He felt a certain type of way about it. He was hurt. Sent out a couple tweets, but he moved on.
Right.
X, he's not moving on, unfortunately.
How do you think it will play out?
How do I think the X and Drake saga will play out? It won't play out. Drake is on another stratosphere above every single rapper. Again, for X right now is gaining momentary hype, but in 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to forget about it, because let's be honest, had he not gotten out of jail this last week, nobody was talking about him, right? Remember, the whole thing started when the snippet first came out of KMT, right? A lot of people were comparing it, a lot of talks. Listen, I spoke to him in jail around that time. Then Drake drops his album, which his album's like a bombshell, right? Or the playlist, let's be correct, right? He drops a playlist. Now everybody's talking about the playlist. We forget about that guy. Eventually, give it 2 weeks, Drake will still be Drake, and X will be, he'll have to move on to his next move, his next trick, his next song. And I don't think Drake has to respond. However, X's, I told him verbatim when he called me today, because he watched my video, and I wanted to make sure he understands what he's doing. I said, listen, you're going another level when you start playing with someone's mom, their dad, their kids. And again, you're moving beyond rap.
It's not hip hop then?
Yeah, no, you're not. No, it's not hip hop. Not hip hop at all. There's certain boundaries where you could have a problem with an artist. You could even have quote unquote street problems with a particular person. And once you bring it to somewhere else, now you're saying we're gonna approach the point of no reconciliation. We're also gonna approach the point of, yo, it's whatever, right? And I think that's just a bad move. Like, he's on probation. He's gonna be on probation for several years. Not only that, like he's very new. Like, he's on his first song. So I'm like, if you want to play with someone's family, where usually if me and you have a problem and we might have some words, we might be able to come back to the table at the end of it by saying no one got hurt. When you bring up Drake's mom, who has had health issues, he's rapped about it, right? And when you bring her up, and you bring her up in a very disrespectful, disparaging manner, you can't take anything off the table. So I'm like, hey, if you're that prepared and you're willing to go there with that, because you can still get the attention, or because he tweeted out that he is trying to get attention off this. I'm like, you get attention just attacking Drake as a rapper, musician, maybe even personally, because a lot of people have, right?
Yeah.
But attacking his parents out of bounds, I think he's filed for that. He needs to cut it out.
Yo, Akademiks, man, like, this has been dope connecting, you know. I'm a fan of your work. It's like I said, like, I respect your opinion, I respect your outlook, so it's been real good to chop it up. We should do this again sometime. Shout out to the whole UK locked in and everyone else around the world. Like, for people who, for some bizarre reason, may not know who you are, how can, like, they follow you and clock what you're doing?
Hey, listen, salute to the entire UK. You guys have shown me so much love. I've marked down the UK as the spot that I have to. I've even discussed internally with my people. I'm like, if I'm going to do like a live show somewhere, I'm thinking the UK. And they're like, even over like New York, I'm like, of course, like I feel so much love from out there. Even when I talk to people, I feel so much love. And also, it's probably the closest thing culturally outside of my home country, Jamaica. But you guys could all follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/DJ Akademiks TV2. I'm on social media at I'm Akademiks, on Instagram at AKA DMIKS. Basically, I have a bunch of other stuff being announced very soon. I believe we have a big announcement. That's all I could say. A big announcement, a big collaboration. But if you do enjoy my perspective, right, and we try to keep it very hip hop and very urban. Pretty much, we keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on. Monday, I'll just say Monday. I wish I could give you the early announcement, but
we got the announcement at the announcement, so you know I feel special right now.
Okay, exactly. Hey, Semtex, thank you. Listen, by the way, I do want to say to you, because I've had a lot of criticism of anytime people have interviewed Drake. I watched your interview with Drake on Beats One, and I thought it was brilliant. I thought you more than anyone else addressed some of the topics that maybe he felt like being more open that day, or maybe you just extracted it from him. But like, for example, the writing issue, I had a lot of questions about that, and I'm glad that he spoke about it when you were talking to him, and that's a lot to your credit. Thank you for that, right? Because believe me, I represent the culture we've been wondering. We got a bunch of questions. So when someone gets them in a room, it's great. We know you want to be friends, or we don't know you want everything to be cool, but you know the culture, we're fiending, we're thirsty. We want those answers, and you helped us out a lot. So thank you as well, all right?
That's dope, man. All right, well, look, appreciate this. We'll connect real soon, yeah?
Yeah, definitely, man. Hey, when I come to UK, we got to link up.
Oh, man.
Oh, no doubt.
Oh, man.